Hello Sai, good evening. Thank you for joining. Just we will wait a couple of minutes, then we will start. Okay. Am I audible? Please type yes if I am audible clearly. Okay. Thank you. Hi Pradeep. Good evening. Hi Tushar. Good evening. Let me share my screen. So just let me know if it's visible. I'm just sharing. Is my screen visible now? Please type yes if you are able to see my screen. Okay. Thank you. So, Pradeep, Sai, and Chetan, how many years of experience do you have in the IT industry, or maybe you are working from the DevOps or something? Can you please type with your experience and the domain basically? It might be a cloud engineer or DevOps or whatever you are working as. experience and your role basically. Okay, Sai says 2 years. And which domain as a role? Okay, Chetan says 1.5 years. Okay, so are you guys working in the okay 8 plus DevOps? Okay, good. So what about the Sai and Chetan? As you are working as a DevOps or a cloud engineer or any other roles? Sai says software engineer, banking domain, trying to switch to DevOps role. Okay, good. And you have 2 years of experience. Okay. Okay, I think we can start now because almost 5 minutes passed. So after this session, we will take your questions basically. So first we will go through the today's agenda. Then whatever you have questions, you can just note down on your paper or something, or you can just type in the chat box. So after the session, we will try to pick one by one. Okay. So for today, as a day one for the 7 days free bootcamp session basically. So as I said in my announcement session, basically I have 12 plus of years of IT industry experience basically, where I work with the multiple stacks, AWS, Linux database, or multiple open source database like all the platforms on, on the Linux part basically. Then databases, MySQL, Postgres, MongoDB, then Grafana and other DevOps tools. Then as a domain diversify in the company industry basically. So I work with the web hosting organization, data center management, customer support, banking sectors, and the production based organization as well, and the support services. So as part of the certification, I have done the certification with the Red Hat certification. Okay, as initial. Then I moved to the AWS as a solution architect, associate and a professional level, and then Kubernetes certification. Okay. So in the 12 years of experience, I delivered more than 20 plus project basically. It may be more than that, but I just mentioned 20 plus. Okay, because in the small scale industry, you need to work multiple stack, right, and the project basically internally. So as a contact wise, I have already shared this link in the description box, but anyways, I will give you in the chat box, so you can just note down. So I'm available on the obviously on the YouTube basically. Then if you want to purchase any interview related questions or any if you want to connect with me as a one-to-one session for the dedicated session basically, it might be related to your mentorship or any interview preparation guidance or any general questions basically. So you can use my this topmet link basically, and you can book whatever the available slots out there. Okay. And if you additional apart from this, if you need any additional support or any doubt clearing sessions, you can obviously book on this slot basically on the top net. Then if you are looking for the specific job switch role right now for the job openings, so I have already two groups, WhatsApp and the Telegram groups. I have mentioned the URL in the GitHub project basically. Okay, so if you are interested to get the latest job openings, so you can join either WhatsApp or Telegram according to your convenience basically. Okay. Then also I have added the social media and the Instagram and the LinkedIn URL here. Okay. So as a part of the project overview basically, so as a day one, we need to understand first when we work in the real time actually to the project, let's say any kind of project, okay, in the real time. So in that project, what tools cover basically, which on the daily basis, which tool we use for the coding, write down the codes, internal communication, daily stand-ups, meetings, and or the documentation part, like then what other tools as an infrastructure provision, monitoring, and all the stuffs, okay, which how the Jira ticket works. So these are the stuff we need to cover. in the project overview. Then we will see EC2 as a day-to-day activities and the what kind of issues we will face in the EC2. Okay, as part of the real time. Then how we can gather the requirement basically, because we don't directly go blindly and create an EC2 instance. If someone asks us, hey, Namdev, can you please create a one EC2 instance for me? Okay, so ideally we need to follow some process over there how we can gather the requirements, because blindly creating any kind of resources over there, it ultimately chargeable, right? It's not free of cost. So we need to go with the proper process and follow the guidelines basically. Okay, and then we will see some of sort of the real time issues on the EC2 level basically, what kind of issues we will face as a real time. Okay, yeah. So as a project overview, let's say you are allocated for any kind of project in the real time basically. Okay, then as a real time cases, you don't get directly work like in the proper stable organization basically. In the small scale industry, you might get the task from the day one. Okay, but as a proper stable organization, you first receive the KT basically from the senior or any from the colleague basically. You will receive the proper KT about the projects basically. You will get the lots of documentation to go through. Okay, and obviously you will get 1 week or 2 weeks depend on the project urgency basically, deliverable dates basically. So if the on the large scale organization, you might get a training period about the 2 weeks or more than that, like 1 month or something. Okay, so you will get sufficient time to grasp your knowledge on whatever they require on the project level basically. Okay, and this situation might be very depend on the project to project and the urgency, deliverable basically. Okay, deliverable date. So as a project for the daily basis, like let's say you are managing the source code git basically. So company might use GitHub, GitLab, bit sometimes Bitbucket. Okay, and for the client as a you IDE tool, what we can say. Okay, so either you can go with the WebStorm or Visual Studio basically. These are the best tool to use. There are lots of tools, other tools you can use, but Visual Studio is one of the normal use cases, or I can say generally most of the people use Visual Studio. Okay, to write down the code basically. Okay, and to assign the task or create the task for the daily basis, you can use Jira ticket over there. Jira is a common for the most of the organization use Jira there. Okay, so we will see the separate in the separate session how the Jira works and how we can move the ticket here and there according to our task progress basically. But for now today's session, I will just go with the I will not go the details basically. Okay, so for the ticketing system, we will use in the real time use Jira. Okay, then sometimes we need to prepare some documentation. Okay, as a personal VC, we use normally MS Word or something, right? Google Docs. But as an organization, they have a sort of the standardization, right? So they will use Confluence as a documentation. Okay, so from there you can write down your documentation. There might be other tools like SharePoint or something, but as a standard practice, you will get the Confluence access over there to write down the any infrastructure related or your troubleshooting related stuffs in the as a part of the documentation. Okay, so for the internal chatting purpose or communication purpose, or might be client call, internal sync up call, daily stand-ups, what we can say. So for that, company most of the company use Microsoft Teams or Slack basically, or Zoom calls. Okay, or some might use this Skype for the business. Okay, so these are the common tools where used for the internal client, and might be internal communication or external as a client call basically. Okay, Microsoft Teams, Slack, Zoom, or Skype. So these are the project area basically. Now coming to the infrastructure provisioning, then a monitoring part, and the other stuffs. So then for the infrastructure monitoring, we can use there are multiple tools like Elasticsearch, Kibana, Grafana, basically Grafana, and then Nagios. Nagios has a both version, commercial and the free one. Okay, open source. And the cloud itself, let's say for the AWS, we can use CloudWatch basically. Okay, and for the infrastructure provision, we can use Terraform. I hope most of the people are aware about this as a market leader. Terraform, then CDK, Cloud Development Kit. Okay, and then the Cloud Formation. So depend upon the architecture standards, project to project basically, they can standardize their tools, which tools they can use in the project basically. Okay. You either you can go with the Terraform, which is most usable tools in the market basically. If you have alternative options or project requirements, then you can just go with the CDK or cloud formation. Okay. And for the these are the infrastructure, and where we deploy the infrastructure basically. Okay. So either most of the organization use AWS cloud or Azure cloud, or sometimes Google cloud basically. So as I've seen in my experience, most of the project use AWS basically. Then second will come as a Azure. Okay. So depend upon the as I said, depend upon the project to project and their architecture design and the standards, they can choose over there. Okay. Sometimes in the normal small scale industry, you need to design everything right from the scratch. Like you will get the AWS account access, you need to create all the resources over there, add the monitoring metrics and the deployment CI/CD pipeline basically. But as in the large scale industry, you might not get a chance to work on this area, because you will get already predefined or pre-set up basically. You just need to tweak or modify existing things like CI/CD pipelines for any branching level changes or any minor changes with the environment variables, or related to CI/CD pipeline or related to any infrastructure. But there is a less chance to work from as a scratch basically for the large scale industries basically. If you get the from the opportunity to get work from the scratch in the large scale industry, then obviously that is good for you basically. Okay. Then obviously as a containerization in the inside the cloud, they most of the organization nowadays using Kubernetes basically, and the serverless architecture, Lambda function, API gateway, SNS, S3 bucket, and the SQS, messaging service. So these are the platform. Now, if you are working from the last, if you have working experience 10 years plus or more than that, or if you just go through that the traditional way. So normally we deploy at that time EC2 instance, VM machine or something. But nowadays, almost I can say from last 5 to 6 years, I have not touched any EC2 instance. It's most of the cases like ECS container or Kubernetes container. Okay. So the world is moving toward the containerization now. Okay. So just learning traditional technology, it's not a no good practice for now, but just having the fundamental knowledge obviously good for that. But we need to move according to your whatever the worlds are moving towards as a containerization. So we need to grasp those knowledge basically from the market, or whatever, from wherever you will get the knowledge basically for the containerization, Kubernetes, Terraform or something. Okay. Yeah. As of now, any questions for now? Okay. You can just type in the chat box basically, so we will pick after the session. So now we will see EC2 instance, let's say. Okay. So we will see day-to-day activities for the EC2 instance, and then what could be the real-time issues and how we can solve that. Okay. So if you get the Jira ticket, like real time, let's say you someone assign or your architecture to someone, or the sometimes you have in the team BA basically business analyst. Okay. They will create the Jira ticket for you, and they will assign you, okay, for the task. So to create the instance basically, or before creating the EC2 instance, you need to understand the requirement basically. So you can't go blindly and create any large scale 16 GB RAM and the core CPU basically. Okay. So you need to first understand the requirement, what is the use case for the EC2 provision, what kind of traffic pattern over there, is this a e-commerce application or normal static websites basically, or any normal Java based applications. Okay. What could be the traffic pattern, it's a heavy traffic or normal use cases, or like sometimes we use normal internal user, right, not the external users. So these kind of questions you need to ask, or collect the information from who is the giving the assignment basically, or might be a client requirement gathering. Okay. So what can be the use cases basically? Use cases is the main part. Then what is the what we can say long term or short term period. Suppose sometimes we use EC2 instance for the shorter period of the time, like I need to perform something on the as part of the POC, I need a server for the 1 week only. Okay. Not for the longer period. for the 1 month or 1 year something. Okay, so these also the part of the questions before provisioning the EC2 instance. Okay, why am I saying this? Because let's say you want to use EC2 instance for the more than 1 year. Okay, so as you can see the normal charging options, costing basically. So on demand cost will be more higher. Okay, if you want to use EC2 instance for the longer period of the time, like 1 year, 1 year or 2 years, then obviously you can go with the cost saving plan like reserve instance or saving plan basically. Okay, there are the options you can where you can save the cost for the EC2 instance. Okay, it's almost save your 50% cost if you there are I will share the calculator basically, or if you just search in the Google AWS S3 calculator or AWS calculator, you will see the lots of option there. You from there you can just select any EC2 instance type configuration, and you can go with the normal on demand EC2 instance or the reserve instance basically. Okay, so you will see the cost difference over there. Then is there are any backup required for the EC2 instance? Sometimes if it's a normal applications, then you can just take keep the backup for one day or 2 days something. Okay, if it's not a critical things. If you have a EC2 instance backup required and if it's very critical, I'm just talking about the EC2 instance for now. Okay, so for the containerization it's a different thing. For just for the EC2 instance, so if you have a backup plan for the 1 week or something, okay, so you can use AWS backup service over there to schedule the daily backups, and also from there you can set up the retention period. Okay, so there are multiple ways to take the backups, like you can write down the lambda functions or any other stuffs. Okay, so but nowadays AWS provide very good features or services, backup service. Okay, from there you can easily configure the daily backups. Okay, like we in RDS we use a backup option, and with the retention period, like how many days you want to keep the backup, 1 week or something. And once you confirm with the backup plan, because it's whatever the you are using in the inside the AWS, you will get charged for that. Okay, earlier elastic IP address was free, but now the AWS started charging for that, right? So you need to understand the costing as well when you design the architecture. Okay, so backup plan is also important for there. And some of the best security practices, like protect the EC2 instance from the accidental terminations. So when you launch the EC2 instance in the advanced option, you will see that. Okay, if you already aware about, then you are really good. But if you are not aware about how to protect the EC2 instance from the accidental deletion, so you can just check that options during the creation. You will get that option, termination protection. You should enable that option. Okay, so if someone from the script he just add the, might be because of the human errors or something, or by mistakes he might delete the issue to instance, right? So to avoid this kind of manual mistakes, we need to protect the resources. You can protect the resources like for the ec2 instance, rds database. Okay, and the load balancer as well, there is options you can protect that. So these are the how once you gather this all the information basically, then you can add all the details in the jira ticket. Basically you need to track all the stuffs in the jira ticket itself. Okay, as a best practice to follow in the larger industry basically. Okay, in the small scale industry sometimes you don't need to follow, or because there are very quick things. You just get the task and you need to finish within a 1 week or something. Sorry, not 1 week, just 1 day or something. Okay, because it's a very hurry mode. But in the organization, a proper organization, you will get sufficient time over there. As a we can say sprint planning, you will get 2 weeks basically. So within a 2 weeks or 1 day or something according to your skill set, so you can just add the proper details in the jira ticket, and then you can change your jira ticket status to in progress, and then you can start working on that. Okay, and for the provision of the EC2 instance, obviously you can go with the terraform or something, or cdk sometimes. So you can use according to your whatever what are the things are using in the project basically. Okay, so now we will discuss about the real time issues for the EC2 instance. What kind of issues we will face in the EC2 instance basically. So I will share my account. Okay, I hope you are able to see my screen, right? Okay, if you are able to see my screen, can you please type yes once again, so I can just ensure. Okay, thank you, Ram. So let me open my one of the EC2 instance basically. Let's say I have this EC2 instance. So if you are able to see this here, the options status check, right? So when we launch any EC2 instance, so before the instance available in the available state or running state, it should be checked. These are two checks basically: system status check and instance checks. So these are the rare case in the AWS sites. It might be fail, one of the fail basically. If you go for the detailed description for this, what kind of to in the interview questions you might sometimes you might get the questions, what are the two checks for the EC2 instance. Okay, so these are the two checks basically: system checks and instance checks. So basically what will happen when we launch any EC2 instance, it will first check with the underlying hardware machine connectivity and all the stuffs basically hardware level, and then inside the instance level, application level, basically software level we can say, it will check before going into the available mode. So these both checks should be available pass basically. Then you will able to access your EC2 instance. Let's say sometimes it failed because of any underlying hardware issues or from the AWS network side, right? Because ultimately it's hosted in the physical data centers. So there might be sometimes network glitch or any hardware failure from their side. Okay. So there, in that case, you might see these issues like any one of the checks fail. So if I just scroll down little bit, scroll here. So you will see here the checks two by two basically. Let me filter it out. Okay, here is, see. So you might see the status like one or one by two checks fail or something, okay, or pass. So both should be pass basically. Let's say you get this issue in the real time. So in that situation, according to their AWS documentation, either you need to stop or start this EC2 instance or just reboot the instance basically. Okay. So how you can reboot this? Just select that particular instance which got the which got the failure basically, and from the actions you can just simply either you can go from here, instance state, stop instance, and then start, okay, or just reboot. So inside the backend, what will happen basically? So it will migrate to the healthy underlying hardware basically, underlying system, hardware machine. Okay, we don't we are not we will we don't worry about this process basically. This will managed by the AWS itself from the backend side basically. Okay, it's a completely automation. So once during the reboot or start and stop process, it will automatically migrate to healthy state machine as a underlying hardware, right? So then it will automatically come your machine, and then you will able to log in that. Okay, this is the one of the situations you might face. This might be the very rare case basically. Okay, this will not frequent cases because the AWS infrastructure itself is very stable. You might seen very rare issues related to their backend infrastructure. And second issues we can see about the disk space full, right? Okay, let's say you have provisioned the EC2 instance with the 20 GB hard disk or 30 GB hard drive, right? So sometimes what will happen, your instance due to application logs or any valid data basically. Okay, obviously if log increase, then we can truncate the logs anytime, right? But let's say you have a 20 GB hard drive for this Linux based machine or Windows based machine. Due to your proper valid application data, your disk space getting full, right? So in that situation, you don't need to take any downtime. Even doesn't matter if it's a production server or whatever. So you can increase the instant EBS volume anytime basically. Okay, so I have already prepared the video on my YouTube channel. Okay, so I will if you need, I will share the link. But if you just go through the channel and video, you will get those video basically. I have prepared for the both Linux and Windows as well, how to increase the disk space. Okay, it's some for the Linux we need to follow 2 3 commands basically, and for the Windows we need to follow the graphical wizards how to increase that disk space. Okay, so but for the production system, just for the safer side, so there is no chance to delete the data, but for the safer side you can just take the complete EC2 instance backup just for the safer side. Okay, then after backup completed, how to take the backup from the, let's say you select this option, server, And from here, okay, just I'm just showing the manual backup basically. And image and templates, you can just simply create the image, okay, and you can just simply add the image name, manual backup or something date wise, and you can just create image here, and your backup will happen. So depend upon the volume size. It's a, let's say it's a 10 GB or 20 GB, it will backup will complete within a few minutes. But if, let's say if you have a volume size 100 GB or something, then it might take a little bit time over there. Okay, so once the backup is done, then you can just simply increase your storage type basically. Storage, let's say now I have 8 GB. So how you can increase, just go to that volume ID, and you can just simply, let's say, just select that, okay, from the action, modify ABS volume, okay, and here you can just, let's say you need 20 GB, right? So you can just mention that 20 GB and simply click on modify, okay. So after modify, you need to follow, let's say if you have a Linux machine, then you need to follow 2 3 commands, like grow part or resize to fs. I have already given this those commands in my video, so you can just watch that, okay. And sometimes you might face the issue related to performance, right? So let's say you have created the T2 micro server. So how much RAM we can get the T2 micro? Let's say is AWS EC2 instance type, right? If I open this, if you are getting any let's say you have any applications over there, and due to a traffic increase or something, and your instance might as a result you might get the slowness over there, because you have created very simple instance type, right? T2 micro. So in the T2 micro, how much we are getting the CPU and memory, basically you can just simply check. Just search AWS EC2 instance type here, and just scroll down a little bit. This is the official page. Just open it, and here you will get the all the instance family basically, okay. If I just click on, let's say for example now, just if I just open the T2 series here, you can see here. So how much let's say T2 micro, how much core I am getting with CPU basically, and how much memory I am just getting, okay. Let's say you have a valid traffic increasing day by day, and now you want to increase your instance, right? Due to valid use cases basically. So how you can just increase that instance type? In that situation, if you are dealing with the production server, you need a short span of the time down maintenance basically, okay. If it's a single server, okay, if it's behind the load balancer and you have multiple servers, obviously in that situation you can just remove server one by one, and you can just increase the that server instance type basically, okay. This is called a uh, vertical scaling. To increase to change the instance type or upgrade the instance basically for the single server, you can just select that. First you need to stop the instance, okay. After server stop properly, then from the action you can change. Now you can see it's gray out because the server is running, okay. It should be stopped basically. So from this instance setting, you can just simply change the instance type, and you get from the drop down list, you can just select the whatever the instance you require, like T2 medium or T2 large, depend upon your use cases basically, okay. So you can just increase that, just select that and just click on OK, and then again you need to start this instance. It will automatically increase basically memory and CPU, okay. This is not for the storage, this is for the just for the CPU and memory basically, okay. And for the monitoring metrics, you can just select particular instance, and from here we can get the all the metrics basically, network in out, then CPU utilization here, okay. If I just open it, enlarge, by default it's support CPU memory and the disk space utilization monitoring not supported. For that you have to install the CloudWatch agent over there, okay. So you can just see the graph here, whatever according to your period basically, you can select from here, okay. And in your infrastructure, let's say you have a auto scaling group, then obviously you can just design on that basis. Basically you can just make the threshold for the CPU network based metrics in the CloudWatch basically to scale up or scale down the instance. Basically you can add number of instances like minimum 2, then maximum 6 or something, depend upon your use cases for that particular application basically. Okay. And from where, so let's say you have taken the manual backup for the this instance basically. So where you can find that EC2 instance, you can just scroll down a little bit. Under the images, if you just click on AMIs, okay, Amazon machine image, here you will get the your backup basically. Okay, whatever the daily backups happening, so you will get here. So let's say you want to restore from the backup, then that particular backup you can just select and you need to launch from. You can just select these options, launch from AMI. So you can just create the new instance from that image basically over there. Yeah, there are multiple options you can try. So I think that's all for the today's. If you have any questions, you can just ask in the chat box basically. So I will try to answer. Okay, Chetan. There might be a network glitch, so I will try to make it clear. Video quality basically. Okay. So is there any other options? Don't want to reboot or stop. This is for. So Manoj is asking basically, is there any other options? Don't want to reboot or stop. This is for the instance upgradation, right? For the instance upgradation, you have to stop basically. As a if you have a single instance basically, and if you have a load balancer, behind the load balancer you have two, let's say two servers. Okay, behind the load balancer, if you have a two servers, then from the load balancer we can remove one server. Okay, you can just remove one server at a time. Just don't remove both servers. Okay, from the as a targets, if you're already aware about the load balancer targets. Okay, just remove one server. Okay, so your complete application will not impact. Basically your traffic will route to healthy connected target, the other servers, right? Then the which server you have removed first, then you need to just immediately stop it, increase the size, instance type, and start it immediately, and then reattach back to the load balancer, just and then wait for some times. Okay, then again same do same thing with the other instance. Okay, so this way you can just avoid the major downtime basically to upgrade the instance. Krishna is asking, is there any new updates available? Can you please make it more clear what kind of updates available? Meantime, we can take the questions from the Harshal. What interview questions and scenarios can be asked for EC2 instance? Okay. So as I said, they can ask about the this kind of troubleshooting basically. So first, in the as part of the implementation, they might ask you they might ask the questions like how you can implement the EC2 instance, what kind of requirements or you need basically. Okay, so to provision the resource EC2 instance, you need to gather some informations like what is the use cases, what is the backup plan basically, how many days of backups you need, and we need for the longer period of the time or shorter period of the time to save the cost basically. And also if it's a day environment, then you can just daily you can automatically stop and start it to avoid the major cost basically. If it's a day environment, obviously 20 running 24/7 it's not feasible. And we need to think from the cost optimization aspects. So for the day environment, you can just stop and start after the business hours basically. So in short, night time basically. For that you can use a system manager or any lambda function or something. Okay, so what apart from that, and as part of the entry questions, they might ask about the as I said, let's say disk space getting full, how you can resolve that. Okay, as I said, I just explain how you can increase the disk space. Okay, then application slowness. Okay, there might be a sometimes there might be spamming issues, or someone trying to, let's say I created the EC2 instance and I made the mistakes in the security group, right? So I just opened the SSH port for the public one, and someone already spam the EC2 instance with the hacking or something, right? We can say compromise basically. So in that case, they might be flooding with the ping service, or whatever. They, if you open the wrong port over there, ICMP packet or something, okay. So there could be lots of reason basically. So when you design the any EC2 instance, you need to follow the proper guidelines. You don't need to open unnecessary security groups inbound policy port for the public world basically. Let's say for the SSH is the very sensitive part, so you need to open only for the your office VPN network, okay, not for the public one. So you need to think that perspective. Also, you need to enable your termination protection for the instance over there, okay. Then some of the points I have already created this small video on my channel basically, as part of the troubleshooting or entry questions, so you can definitely go through that. That will definitely help out you. Additionally, apart from that, if you have any questions, definitely you can just comment on that video, so I will try to answer that as well, okay. So the Arjun said, as you said, now everyone moving to a container, then why we have to know the EC2 much? See, as I said, there may be lots of other requirement, like as of now, there are 100% out of 100% not using the container, right? So in the small scale industry or other, depend upon the use cases. If let's say for the practical purpose, I am using EC2 instance, right? So for that, I need to understand how, what is this EC2 instance, how the working basically. So in short, container have a memory and the resources, right? So VM also has the resources, right? The main functionality, how it works and how we can connect, what kind of applications we are deploying over there. So in the small scale industry, there might be a use cases they use EC2 instance, right? They sometimes the company doesn't use RDS as a separate managed service. So there's in that case, they might use the EC2 instance, and over that is on the top of EC2 instance, they can use command base, then MySQL or MongoDB or something as a EC2 based database basically. Okay, so there might be multiple use cases. That is the reason we should know about the EC2 instance. Okay. Krishna is asking, can you explain about the backup? Backup is basically a backup service from the AWS. Okay, if you are able to see my screen, so let's say in the console, if you just type backup here, okay, you can see the backup service. From here, there are multiple options. You can see from the left side basically, but from here you can just schedule your daily basis backup basically. It's a centralized backup management system. Sorry, from the AWS. So you don't need to write separate Lambda function to take the daily basis backup or something, right? Or any other custom Bash script or Linux based scripting. So here you can just schedule your backup plan one time basically, and whatever the retention period you require. It's very easy to use backup service basically, and it has multiple features. So you can just try definitely for that. So so there are multiple options. I am not going to explain for now because due to time constraint. But you can just explore it. Multiple features over there. As short as you can just take the backup of EC2 instance and other feature as well there. So you can just try with that. Mohammed is asking, when I going to connect EC2 instance through SSH, it asking me to Ubuntu password. I can't understand how to resolve it. Okay, if you are trying from the putty basically, you need to attach your private key over there, okay. And you need, for the Ubuntu base EC2 instance, you need to add a username as a Ubuntu over there, okay. So by default it will not ask password basically until and unless you change the SSH configuration over there to forcefully ask the password basically. But as a standard practice for the AWS EC2 instance, it will ask first to attach login with the key pair basically, private key. So inside the putty, let me open the putty. In the putty, let's say you have this putty version. So under the SSH, auth. Okay, and here you will get the, where it is, okay, under the, I think option change host key. Yeah, here under the SSH you need to add that private key basically. Okay, then it will not ask the password. Okay, and the other options nowadays, even you don't need to use a putty basically. Okay, let's say I have this EC2 instance. Okay, let me navigate to EC2 instance. Then here there is multiple options, you can just use that. Let's say, let's I want to connect this EC2 instance. If you just click on this, select first EC2 instance, then just click on connect. Okay, here you can get the four type of options basically. So normally I tried with the session manager at the EC2 instance, you can try with that. So for this EC2 instance connect, okay, you don't need any putty or key basically, you can directly log in from here as well. Okay, it will open as a prompt normally, and you can just run your command or whatever operations you want to perform basically. Okay, you don't need to use putty or something. Okay, for the system checks failure basically. So as per their documentation, we have to reboot or stop and start the instance. There is no other way basically. Okay, and if you want to fix with the other strategy, like, then you need to. It's a very hectic process, like migrating the applications, but that is not a feasible option. So as per their AWS white paper or documentation, they suggested to stop or reboot the instance basically. Okay, to clear the system checks failure, resolve the issue basically. Manoj is asking, someone asked in interview, I don't want to reboot, stop, start. How you can fix the system checks issue? I don't want to reboot, stop. Okay. How to fix the system status check issue? So, as per the documentation for now, there might be other tricky questions. But for according to my experience and the documentation of the AWS, so they suggested basically to reboot or stop and start the instance basically. Okay, if there are any other tricks available, then definitely you can just search on the internet basically. Ravindu is asking, please explain more about on SSS security. Okay, so let me open the SSS security group basically here. So if I open the security group, okay, so by default in AWS there is a no traffic will allowed basically for the security groups when you create any security groups. Okay, definitely outbound policy is all traffic available, but for the inbound policy, inbound rules basically, it's by default deny. So if you want to open any specific port for any particular network, this this is for the my personal account and personal practice. So I just open the SSH public open. Okay, but as in the office or real time project, you don't need to open this SSH port publicly basically. Okay, so what you can do is basically you can just from here add new rules, just select SSH here. Okay, you don't need to remember any port number here for predefined policy basically. Okay, and inside the custom you will see the options. Either let's say you have a office VPN here. Okay, just select custom option, and whatever the IP address of the office VPN, you can just add here with the CIDR range mask basically. And then just if you want to add in a description like office VPN or something, you can just add just for the identification, and then just click on save rules. Okay, so unnecessary don't open any ports like SSH for the public or let's say ICMP, right? ICMP protocol or other other traffic. All traffic also should not be open for the public. Okay, it should be within your VPC range or any particular what we can say VPN IP address basically. Okay, also for the database port, MySQL port number, you should not open for the public network. For the practice wise, it's okay, but as in the real time, you don't need to open that. Is there are any? Sidhu is asking basically. Is there are any possibility to get a job with the AWS Linux Terraform and shell scripting, or DevOps tool also required? I think this is a question basically depend upon the project and the requirement basically. Sometimes having a DevOps skill set, that doesn't mean you need to understand. Let's say some project have a need the skill set Linux and the Terraform and the AWS. Okay, so in that situation, you can obviously you will get the opportunity. But if someone require the skill set like the candidate should know about the Docker, Kubernetes, and the other all the DevOps tools. So they will just go with that kind of candidates only. Okay, if you are already working with the internal projects, let's say, and if but nowadays what will happen in the during the interview process basically, so they will ask the questions for the all the DevOps tool basically, Docker, Kubernetes, monitoring tools, troubleshootings, and all the stuff. For the interview cracking, definitely you should have a knowledge about the DevOps, all the DevOps tools. But as a real time working wise, it's a depend upon the project to project. It's a it will not doesn't give the guarantee basically. Sometimes you will get the work on the Kubernetes or Terraform. Sometimes company already all the stuffs are stables there. Okay, you might get the very less opportunity there to work with the tools basically. Okay, it's a project to project, depends on the project to project basically. Okay, but to cracking the interviews, definitely you should have a DevOps tools knowledge there. Nowadays most of the interview panel asking question about the Kubernetes, Terraform, CI/CD pipelines, like that, troubleshootings and the CI/CD troubleshooting basically, and the other stuffs. Arjun is asking, EC2 is fit for every use, but still companies looking containerize. Is the cost is the only reason? Explain. See, if you see about the virtualization features and other stuffs, container, there are multiple theoretical definition you can get about the VMs, difference between VMs and the containerization, right? Or for the normal language, you can just take the example for the containerize basically. You can use for the speed your deployment perspective, or consume minimum resources, right, as compared to VMs or other let's say EC2 instance. So there are other multiple benefits. And also the second benefits is like containerization. Let's say we build the image, right? So that image that image we can lift and shift anytime, anywhere on the container, right? But for the VMs, let's say we need to follow some migration strategy and all the stuffs. But in the containerization model, you have a already predefined build image, right? So you can just dealing with that very easily as compared to VMs. So you can just see the lots of differences between VM and containerize basically. For reboot, client confirmation is required or not required means downtime. Okay, to take the maintenance basically, let's say for the reboot, so there might be a depend upon the your let's say if it's a production system, obviously the approval is required, because you directly don't go and just reboot your machine, right? So whatever the reasons in the real time cases, let's say you fail, system checks fail, right? So you need to create a, or let's say you have any internal groups where you can just inform first. So we are getting this kind of alerts and the issues basically. We need to resolve this, we need to reboot the instance, right? So you need to provide the valid reason why you are rebooting the machines basically. Okay, once you got the approval from your account manager or whatever the team lead basically, then you can go and reboot your machines. But for that, as a best practice, you need to create a Jira ticket for that. Okay, as a standard practice. Because if it's a very critical applications and or the banking sector server basically, so you don't go blindly and just reboot the machines, right? So you need to take the proper approval over there. So Sai is asking how to gain real time knowledge on DevOps if we are switched from one domain to another domain. Okay, to getting the real time knowledge, sometimes in the project basically we don't get all the exposure in the project, like as I said, Docker, Kubernetes, and the other tool basically. So as a POC or personal practice, what we can do is the best practice plan is basically you can just first know note down the tools basically, what comes in under the DevOps tool, Terraform, CDK, or the cloud, then Linux a little bit, then the CI/CD pipeline like Jenkins or something. Okay, then after that you can just plan which services are there to I need to study for that. Okay, then you can just take a small project first. Okay, after the getting the fundamental knowledge and the some little bit hands on, just you can just design your two-tier architecture or three-tier architecture, or you can just take the small project over there, do hands-on practicals, how you can collaborate multiple applications there with the connectivity and the networking part. Okay, then slowly once you get the confidence, you can just go build the complex project over there. Okay, so nowadays people are uploading more the videos on the YouTube basically for the multi-layer architecture and all the stuff. So definitely you can just easily get the knowledge from the YouTube as well. So having the doing the practice and the real-time hands-on practical by doing the small to complex projects will definitely help out you to get the real-time knowledge basically. Okay, and obviously you can increase your professional network for the same domain, and you can just discuss with them like real-time issues, what kind of tasks they are getting in the real time. So according to that you can just judge, and you can just do the practicals basically. Okay, so as I said, just don't depend upon the project basically. Sometimes you will get the Terraform task or not, there might be a depend on the situation basically. So is there are any other questions or doubts? So in tomorrow's session, we will see about the other real-time cases. Basically, if I open the day 2, we will see about the load balancer over there, how to dealing with the load balancer basically, what kind of issues we will face in the load balancer. Then about the S3 bucket. Okay. Then IMA roles, user custom policy, which is the very important part. If you doesn't matter if you are the cloud engineer or DevOps engineer. Okay, these are the very important things to manage as part of the security in the infrastructure. Okay, AWS. Okay, there. So we will cover in the tomorrow session. Yeah, that's all for the today. If you have any questions, then you can just definitely ask. I will just wait one more minutes. Otherwise, we can just wrap up for the today session. Anyone facing issue with my screen basically? Are you able to see this screen clear, or there are blur? What we can learn from? What we can learn from? Okay, Harshal is asking what we can learn from basic of AWS. So are you asking about the from where we can learn from the basic of AWS? So basically, I think you are trying to ask about the which services there are. I need to learn for the AWS, right? So Harshal, am I correct? Okay. Which services basically? Okay. So as I said, there are multiple services in the AWS, but as a best practice to gain the knowledge for the AWS side basically, obviously you can just go with the EC2 instance, then load balancer, auto scaling group. Okay, and the security, how you can manage the security, then VPC, and if you have in the real time, if you have a multiple AWS accounts, then how to collaborate, or we can say VPC peering basically. Okay, how you can connect each other with the private connectivity, VPC peering, then NACL network part basically, then RDS database serverless services basically, Lambda function, API gateway, SNS, SQS. Okay, then CloudWatch, IMA service, how to manage the custom policy, CDN, CloudFront. Okay, so there are other lots of stuff basically. So these are the important services, and obviously, yeah, ECS and the EKS, which we don't need to forget. Okay, So containerization is also important stuffs, Kubernetes service basically. So Rupesh is asking, if you lost PAM key, then what troubleshooting we can do? So Rupesh, there are multiple ways as I shown. Either you can directly select that particular instance and you can just use that connect options. From there, you can just easily gain your EC2 instance access over there, and from there you can just generate public key and private key and replace that public key over there by using the, if you are aware about the Linux utility, basically command and utility, then copy that private key to your local machine, then you can able to connect your machines. Okay, but these are the best way. The another way is like you can just detach that EBS volume to your newly created any EC2 instance. From there you can just connect and mount that volume to that machine, newly newly connected EC2 machine basically. And from there you can do same process like generate new SSH key and replace the public key and download the private key on your local machine, then reattach that EBS volume to your original EC2 instance. So this way you can just gain your access. Okay, how Python we have learned, how much Mohammed is asking basically how much Python we have to learn for DevOps. So having the complex expertise in the DevOps, programming language doesn't require basically in the part of the DevOps. Okay, so but having the some like a scripting level or sometimes use case in the CI/CD pipeline or something. So at least little bit you, if you have a good knowledge on that, then definitely it will help out you to get the more opportunity or in the day-to-day working basically. Okay, if you are willing to learn not only Python but obviously you can go with the Node.js as well and the other TypeScript or something. Okay, but as a complex or we can say expertise doesn't require as a programming language. So if you are aware about the normal use cases, then obviously that will also fine. And obviously in the real-time project you will definitely get a sufficient time to just learn those if that is a Python is required basically. Okay, you will get the sufficient time and you can just learn those. Yeah, if there are nothing, then I will just wrap up for the today and we will connect tomorrow for the same time, 9 p.m. Okay, so I hope this session is helpful for you guys. So just comment after the session basically how you are feeling basically. So if you have any suggestions, just let me know. I will try to modify that in the bootcamp session. Okay, for the next 6 days. Yeah, yeah, then we can just wrap up for the today and thank you for the joining. Okay, and your time basically.